Starting recording, it says. All right. Welcome, everybody, to Bootsy Greencast, where I am camped out in my house and the neighbors are building new ones all around me as I try to narrate audiobooks. But I have today the show, someone who we've been batting the ball around from YouTube, Mr. Jimmy Sterbick. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for being here. I'm much gratitude for the opportunity to talk to you, Bootsy.
Well, you kind of chased me down and solicited me, and I said yes because, well, that's the kind of I can't help myself, I'm curious. I can't wait to explore new terrain and see what gives, man. But yeah, thanks for taking the time. Should be fun.
Yeah, no, I absolutely enjoy listening to. I listen to most of them. Some of them I miss, but
you should miss more. I'm trying to do better, honest to God. Like I'm really trying to be more focused and start to really distill stuff down and make it easier to consume.
What's in front of you, like what we're going to talk about today, but what's in front of you is when it attracts you, it, and you just do it, and it feels good when you do it.
Yeah.
And then as I listen to a lot of the stuff, it feels good, and that's the reason why I do it.
Yeah, I think it has to be congruent. It has to be something that makes sense, that you can, understand intellectually, and it also feels good inside. That's what people say, like resonate or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever word we want to use. There's lots of cool words in the self-help New Age community. And one of those words is pendulums or egregores or thought forms. And that's what I'm really excited to talk to you about today. Actually, I'm not really excited to talk about it. I don't want to talk about pendulums or egregores or whatever, but I think it's something that we really need to talk about.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, I don't know. I want to talk about weird dreams and aliens, but the world needs what it needs. And I think if we could talk a little bit about the idea that behind the veil, the material world, so to speak, there are collections of energies. However, it is odd and strange that we see this phenomenon. We do see it, and it's very apparent to see in any group, in any movement, in a sports setting, political setting, church, basically anywhere where people gather and there's a group, you can see these dynamics happen. There's a lot of things we don't see with our five senses, but they absolutely do exist. This Wi-Fi is humming through me right now, just crushing my cells. But I'm here broadcasting with you over Skype, still somehow. So this is what I'm really excited to talk about today. I really am actually excited. It's fascinating to think about this stuff, and hopefully it'll be helpful to some folks out there, because I see a lot of guilt, duty, and obligation, which would be the three main things to sort of watch out for when it comes to getting sucked into an ideological informational structure or energetic informational structure that just wants to basically consume your energy, pimp you out, and basically drain you of everything that makes you an individual.
Yeah, and be careful of. I like that word egregore. That's the first time I've ever heard of it. I was going to throw one out. I was going to Yeah. I was going to throw out the word. I thought I was going to use a big one using the word engram. But yeah, the egregore that's a good one. I like that. That's actually
that's the quantum physics term. There's a guy who wrote a book called Egregores. Gosh, I forgot his name, but I need to read that book. I'm reading Anthony Peake's book right now called The Hidden Universe, which talks about these things as well, and he categorizes them, and he uses also the word egregores, and that's I think the more quantum physics term, modern or whatever. Hang on, I'm looking up the guy who wrote the book on egregores real quick. Where is he? No, Mark Stavish.
Mark Stavish.
Yeah, okay. And so
you have to remember that name.
Yeah, so I'll try. I'm making notes, so
Yeah.
maybe I can put those links in the podcast.
I call them programs.
Okay.
I call them hidden programs that everybody is on a subconscious level. They have hidden programs that are buried inside of them,
Mm-hmm.
and they are balls of energy, right, that have been suppressed or held inside for a long time, and they have no choice but to manifest out in the five sense world, the real world, because they exist in energy. They will happen. They will take place. It's a matter. And you wonder, well, why did that happen to me? It's a matter of watching the program happen. And there are very simple programs. I'm a financial advisor. I deal with money, and I started seeing this because money's energy. I didn't know. I had an idea about it 25 years ago, but I know it to be purely true because I started seeing the funniest things happen with money, and they would shock you. I'll give you like an example. Okay.
Okay.
Two brothers from two brothers. I won't mention the town, and let's say they're Bob and John,
Okay.
and they come from a very poor part of town, and they become wealthy. Okay, and they get into whatever business that they get into, and uh, they have some money, and they decide to buy some property, and they buy this property, 10,000 acres. Okay, and they get it really cheap. They get it for like $10,000 an acre in a highly demanded area. It's a true story. Okay. A famous actor comes up and wants to buy the property. I know this because I was their financial advisor.
Right.
Okay. And they want to buy the property. Hey, look, I'll write you. You don't have enough money, is what they tell the actor. He says, I'll write you a check for $320 million. $320 million is a lot, and it's not a little. Right? You can eat dinner.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, you get a lot of money. What if I told you that when I constantly talk to them about what we invested, we're doing is I don't want to pay taxes. I hate taxes. I don't want to pay taxes. I don't like taxes. Taxes are bad. I'm good. I don't want taxes in my life. Every time I was in a conversation with them, do I have to pay taxes on that? That's what the conversation was about. There was no gratitude for the amount of money that they had. Okay. The energy was, I don't want to pay taxes. And that doesn't make them bad people. I'm just saying, when you are against something and you create that energy, it has no choice.
Yeah.
But to come back to you.
Yeah. So against is for, like.
Yeah. When you have against energy, you are actually generating a for energy that is manifesting in the energy world and has no choice to manifest it, but to manifest. So like I watched this and I was like, as I'm watching it play out like a movie. It's like watching a movie, right? So they do it, and this is like back in 2004, 2005 when they had all the money, and hey, let's take a chunk of it, take 10 million of it, put it into tax free, and you guys put it in a trust, and you'll never have to worry about losing any of it. What they did is they leveraged it because they didn't want to pay tax, and they put it into land before the 2007 property crash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Guess what? They owed money.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
They lost every dime.
Mm-hmm.
They lost every dime. They live off of Social Security with their daughters.
Trying to avoid losing money.
It's like the program. Yeah. It's like the program. Money's like a perfect idea for the pendulum concept that we're discussing.
Sure.
Okay. And I've literally got hundreds of stories, but instead of having gratitude to pay the tax, the universe said, oh, you don't want to pay tax. Guess what? You don't have to pay tax the rest of your life. Sure. Because it doesn't judge you. Your subconscious does not judge you. It doesn't judge what goes into it, and it doesn't judge the fact that you have it buried in there. It only knows that in some way, shape, or form that you want to get that, and let's use the word pendulum, out, okay? And therefore, that against energy that you have in it then starts to manifest out in your life.
Well, that's the shadow. That's the shadow, part of us. And that's what's attracting these things to us, the things that we haven't acknowledged, the
correct.
things that we have buried deep, deep inside of our psyche. That's the shadow. And so that's the same thing that's attracting this pendulum. The way I think about it is we are attracting these energetic informational structures subconsciously, as a result of not dealing with trauma, not acknowledging issues that we have in our own psyche, right? So diving deep into that. And that's something that, I don't think is really, it talks about these ideas, these energetic structures sort of, slapping us around and making us do different things. And we don't even realize it, then we try to become conscious of it. And then we realize that they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Yeah. So, like getting into how to overcome it.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. So this is a great topic, and this is where, in my journey, and everybody's journey and everybody's walk, I want to emphasize this, and I wanted to say this in the very beginning because this is actually a phrase I use internally with everybody and everything. But I want to say it before we continue. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm saying I am speaking about my journey. Everybody's own path is their own path. That being said, I want to say one thing before we continue. It's kind of like my little prayer type of a deal. I am against nobody. I am against nothing. I love everybody. I love everything. I offer no resistance. Okay? And when I say that in the sense that I'm only sharing with you. If it resonates with you, great. If it doesn't resonate with anybody, that's great too. Okay? So before I did RT, Hopoponono came knocking on my door. And what do I mean by that? That which is supposed to come to you is supposed to come to you whether you like it or not. Okay? So as an example, I had some inner conflict in my life before 4 years ago that I was emitting to everybody and everything, and I didn't know it. Okay? And my wife walked up and she asked for a divorce. My daughter basically was estranged from me. She didn't want to talk to me. I was like how do I put it? I was the angry man walking around upset at the world. Mm-hmm. Because look at what the world did to me. Mm-hmm. Right? And I just want to give you like a before picture. And I now teach the Hopoponono. And people want to ask, like, and the first thing I want to say, I don't know. I have no control. I'm only a channel of that energy which needs to be brought to this world. That's all I am. It's not me. Everybody walks around, and once the alignment is set in your subconscious and your conscious mind, okay, that's where the energy is released, and it's almost like it has to be drawn to you. So when this happened, the Hopoponono came to me. I got on...
Yeah, well, could you define that, actually? I mean, it's...
Yeah. So I'm not the type of person to get on YouTube. 4 years ago, I got on YouTube, and the first thing that happened, I turned it on. What was on the screen? The Hopoponono. Mm-hmm. Was on the computer screen. I'm the only one who gets on the computer. It's encrypted. Yeah. Okay. No one. It's my business. It's encrypted, and for the first time I turn it on, I get the Hopoponono, and I'm seeing this gal talk to Dr. Hugh Lynn, and guess where it's at? I live in Pacific Grove, California, and she's doing a seminar. Guess where the seminar's at? It's in Pacific Grove, California. And that's kind of like, weird. And I go, that guy looks really, really familiar. And I'm doing a double take. And as the interview goes on, he says, "Oh, don't call me Dr. Lynn. Call me Dr. Aliakala." So prior to that, I'm with the family. We're in Hawaii. We're at the Hula Grill. We're in Kaanapali in Maui. Okay, we're eating at this table. And now I mentioned this to you earlier. My brother used to call me Linus. I was the guy with the towel and the flies, with the cloud over his head wherever he walked.
Because you didn't bathe, because you didn't shower, right?
Well, it was, even though I did shower, I still smelled.
Yeah.
I know that's going to sound weird, but that's actually true.
Somebody needs to learn about essential oils.
Well, yeah, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
No.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that while I'm watching the video, the guy keeps on getting more and more familiar up until that phrase, and I go, oh my God, I've met him. So I go back in time 3 years prior. It's 2014. Okay. And I'm with the family. I still have the photo on the computer. And we're with the family. We're eating, having lunch. And there's this guy with this Iowa Hawkeye hat on. Right. And he's with this gal, and they're eating right next to us. I mean, I want to take a photo with the family. It's really important that I take this photo with the family. Right. And, this experience that we're having in Hawaii. Right. So I go, here's my phone. Can you please take a photo of the family? And there's not a cloud in the sky, dude. I swear to you, not a single cloud in the sky. Okay. And he says to me, oh yeah, I'll be happy to take the photo of you. He goes, I just want to let you know you have a cloud over your head, before he takes the photo. And I said, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, I'll take the photo. So he takes the photo. After I take the photo and I look at it on the phone, guess what's over my head? A real physical cloud is over my head. And I'm like taking a double take at him, and I go, what's your name again? You said it's Hugh what? And he goes, no. Just call me Dr. Aliakala. So I saw it on YouTube, and I saw him. I go, that's just coincidence. Nah, that's just, that's no big deal. So in Pacific Grove, we have a Trader Joe's, and if you looked it up on YouTube, you look up the Trader Joe's in YouTube and looked on Yelp, the first thing it's going to say, it has the worst parking lot in America. That's what it's going to say. And I pull up, and this is before I started RT, so I was only doing the Hopoponono. I pull up and I get the front row parking spot right at the front of the door, which is kind of important, because as I walk in, guess who I bump into? That gal Mary, who was talking, isn't it just Quinky Dink? Right, I bump into the gal who actually did the interview in Pacific Grove with Dr. Hugh Lin. And I go, wow, that's kind of like interesting, right? And this is when a lot of stuff is like going on in my life. I mean, like all kinds of different stuff. Like, you can't explain why it's happening. And I thought, boy, that's really interesting. And I get in line, and guess who comes behind me? She does. And she starts up a conversation about the Hopo. And I go, really, thank you. And in the back of my head, I go it's almost like the universe is telling me to, do something about this. 3 days later, in the mail, it's mailed from Hawaii, from Maui. Okay. At the base of Aliakala, the mountain. Guess what I get in the mail? I still to this day don't know who sent it to me. Guess what I got? I got the Zero Limits. I got the book Zero Limits, which is a story written, there's a guy, Joe, I can't think of the guy's last name, but he basically authored the book for the first book that Dr. Hugh Lin truly authored for the Hopoponono. And is this an accident? Can't be an accident. So it just
mysteriously showed up in your mailbox.
It shows up, and so I'm going to read the book.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, that's bananas, man. So tell us what it is, please. The Hopoponono.
Okay. The Hopoponono is, and for me, now understand something. The second I say I know is the second I don't know. Okay, so I don't know. I'm just sharing how the feeling. When I first started doing it, I thought I was telling other people. Okay, you're not. Okay, and I'll let everyone kind of feel it out. What you are basically saying, and there's not just 4 phrases, there's actually 5. You are saying that I am 100% responsible. I am sorry. Please forgive me. I thank you, and I love you. You're saying it to everything and everyone, and you are taking, this is prior to reading the RT. Now, you got to realize I did the Hopo before the RT. Then the RT
So
after I
so it is an activity that
it's
you
a
can
mantra.
do
It's a mantra.
where
It's a
you
mantra.
release, right? Like,
Yeah,
is that
yeah, yes.
okay?
And that
All
what
right.
happens is what you're doing is you are telling the mirror reflection, okay, in that he talks about in reality transurfing, you are telling the mirror reflection, okay, your inner core being, your subconscious, that you are 100% responsible for everything that happens to you. Okay, I'm sorry. Please forgive me for bringing it to you. I thank you and I love you. Now that's if it's a negative event. Or I don't want to use the word negative because nothing's negative. You can't look at something bad and good. Nothing is bad and good. Actually, you are getting exactly what you are asking for. You just don't know it. Even if someone walks up and like started to cuss at you on an unconscious level, you may not know it. And I was that type of person. I got a story about that. It, you'll love. You're going to die laughing. Is uh, doesn't happen on accident. It happens because on an unconscious level, there is some type of fear, guilt, or shame that emotion has married with the thought, and you believe in some way it should be brought to you. Once that happens and it passes the seat of the soul in your heart, your toroidal field goes out into the real world and attracts it to you like a magnet. Okay? And I was that type of person. So I have this gal, she's kitty corner, and she has Tourette's, right? She has Tourette's. Say her name is Mary. And I don't even know her first name. She's a really nice gal, actually. And I'd be out there mowing the lawn, and she'd be MFing me, like just standing on the corner, dude, like berating me. We didn't talk, we didn't do anything. I'm just mowing the lawn, right? This is prior to 4 years ago, prior to the Hopo, prior to RT. Okay. So now I started doing the Hopo tour, right? We don't ever talk, nothing ever happens. Doesn't. Last year, I haven't talked to her in like 3 years. I'm down. I told you the story about the Rite Aid. I'm down at the same store. I'm down at Rite Aid, and I'm getting a couple of flowering pots. And guess who I run into it in the line? Mary. And she starts telling me, you know what? Your house looks awesome. Before I got to tell you, it looked really bad, but you put a lot of work into it. The house is beautiful. Your kids are beautiful. It's really nice to meet you. And she calls me Bob. Okay. And I said, that's great, And she was telling me, you know what? I got to go to the car now because the dogs, I left them in the car. And she was in line. I thought that was kind of funny. And she like up and walks away from me, like having this like mini conversation, so to speak. Now she has Tourette's. You know what Tourette's is, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. She goes to the car and I get a tap on my shoulder, on my left shoulder. And there's this little old woman there. And she goes, who are you, Jesus Christ? And I said, no. She goes, what are you talking about? And she goes, she has Tourette's, don't you? And I said, I kind of had an idea. And she said, I'm her mom. Since the age of 9, she can't speak more than 2 sentences without using a cuss word. That's the first time I've heard her since she was 9 years old. That's over 40 years to have a conversation and not cuss.
Wow.
And I'm going to, just as an added caveat, I'd like to throw this out. My daughter used to MF me. Won't use it. Won't use the words around me. You, on an energetic level, are emitting a pattern, and you don't know that you're emitting it. That pattern is a radio wave that goes out into the real ether, okay, and then has no choice. And it eludes like the stuff that we think that we want and is bringing you what you subconsciously have built in. And the more you say, you know what, I don't want that type of person in my life. I don't want that type of person in my life. You are bringing that person into your life. And even if they aren't that type of person, your subconscious will turn them into that person. Has no choice.
Yeah, we see the pattern a lot where we often get what we don't want.
Yes.
I want to be very clear though here and say, like it seems like, because certain things do happen, random shit just happens, and that is part of being alive. It doesn't mean you created it, you know, like not always. Like look at the situation that we're in right now where, you know, what is going on all around us with this virus and all of that kind of stuff. Now, like the situation around us is not, you know, one person's fault, or like it's a lot of people's faults, but you know, like the idea that somebody is, you know, has you know, completely put themselves in a position just because of their, you know, your attitude definitely reflects, but there are other elements going on. I don't want to like sit here and be like, well, you know, you're in your position because of your own, you know, yada yada yada. And while that's true, you know, we all need to take responsible, or all be responsible, take responsibility for our emotions and what we're emitting, because truly we do. There are certain things that are completely outside of your control, you know, like this is life. Things happen. And we need to be able to roll with those punches when they do happen and keep a good mentality, stay in control of our emotions, and keep developing and growing. But if if you're new to, you know, spirituality, or whatever, you find yourself in a position, you know, this is not meant for you to beat yourself up. Any reality can be, you know, mastered or you know, navigated in a way that's more positive.
Yeah,
and we're all having subjective experiences and creating the world around us in tandem, you know.
And I agree with you. Okay, there are, and I'm going to say, but they are the exceptions rather than the rule. And what I mean by that is, I can still walk down the street, and I can have a smile on my face and wave at somebody, and the guy keeps a frown on his face and like has a stern look. Okay, I'm don't get me wrong, I'm not, in no way am I saying I'm any different than anybody else on the planet. What I am saying is, though, that when your energy changes, you'll notice, if you, and there's a method to do it, but you'll notice that as your radio emits a different radio beacon, right, it has no choice but to bring the larger percentage to that radio beacon. You are just a channel. And by being the channel, if you're channeling the right energy, right, different things happen to you as prior to the past.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay, so that's what and I
agree. You know, I'm just throwing that caveat out there because I want to be very clear. You know, I don't want people to be like, well, you know, this and that, whatever. And and we all suffer with different circumstances that we need to overcome. And that's part of the challenge of just being alive, you know.
Correct.
Like there's you know, human elements and randomness that's at play here, but ultimately, you know, we find advantage and look inside ourselves, then we can slide across these pendulums instead of being stuck to them and swung wildly and shaken, and find ourselves more in control by letting things go. Like I love the idea of the how do you pronounce it again? Hopoponono?
It's called the Hopoponono, and I just want I just call it the Hopo. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
No, but one of the things that it does say is, you are not, when you say the 100% responsible. Okay, so like just as an example is, it's a way of letting the energy pass by you. You're not to blame it for it.
Right.
Okay, so when it takes place, this is where the two I started really looking at, and in a dream, talk about dreams, we'll go to a dream in a minute, but these are where the two started to merge. Okay, we're at a point where it's actually started to merge for me. And you are not to blame. There is no fault in the Hopoponono. Okay? You're not, when you say you're 100% responsible, all you're saying is you are not blaming past data, past memory, okay, on that other you're not blaming that other person, and you're not blaming yourself that the event took place. You are accepting it. You are accepting it, and you are great. Yeah, you're letting go. You're accepting it, and you're having gratitude for it. And you are basically, i.e., in the way of Tufti, this is where it merges. You have a way of having gratitude for even and I don't want to use the word, I'm going to use the word negative because it's really hard to come up with another deal, for a random event. We'll use the word random. You used the word random, I believe. For a random event to be a good thing. If you understand what I'm saying. So the random event ends up being by finding the edge, okay? And what is the edge, in my opinion? You know, you can have heads or tails with a coin. I always find the edge. I take the penny. I have 2 pennies on the table right now that are like balanced, that are on their edge, right? You find the edge that's to your advantage, and you move forward. You don't hover on it. You let it go. You find, hey, what's the good that can come out of this? Even in a car accident, even in anything that comes forth. You know, I would like to throw something out. I'd like to share something. I was the type of person who, when they drove around, I was always doing the right thing. I was always like, in a way, trying to please people. I was a pleaser, right? And I'd drive the car, and when someone cut me off, I'd like really get angry at them. I was wondering, where's that coming from? You know, I'm not angry, am I? I didn't know it. I did not know inside that I was. And I was the type of guy, when I'd watch people drive through stop signs, and I'd be very angry at them that they would, that they weren't following the law. I literally got 2 stop tickets. I got tickets at stop signs where I actually stopped, right? And that's my second point. I go, hey, we go in front of I'm going to challenge this, right? And I had a witness actually come that, like, yeah, he did. He stopped at the deal, and so they didn't give me the ticket on the second one. I was stopping at stop signs, yet I was still getting a ticket for not stopping at the stop sign, because I was creating that against energy. I'm with E the other day. She's her daughter, and we come up to the stop sign, and there's a police car right there, and I didn't stop. I mean, I literally ran the stop sign. You know what he did? He waved at me. See, your energy that you are emitting changes the interaction with everybody and everything around you. I'm not saying that random stuff doesn't happen, because that's part of life. I hear what you're saying, but you can always
and I'm just throwing that caveat out there. But I mean, the idea of against energy, that's exactly, and you don't stand for anything if you're against something too. You know, like what are you promoting if you're just against stuff? If you're anti this or anti that, then you don't have a real position. So, I think that's why I want to talk about this subject right now. And not to try to beat it into people's heads, but I mean, I've had to beat it into mine. It's taken me years to understand a lot of this stuff, or I don't know, I guess incorporate it. I think we all experience these phenomenon, and then we don't maybe really realize it until we see examples in the world, and we're like, holy shit. And then it's confirmed, and then it's confirmed again, and you're just like, oh my God. So, there's just so much going on right now. And, the idea that nothing is bad or good. I mean, I understand that's a nuance thing to say, and I think that's true overall. But at the same time, like, there are things that are not good for, let's say, humanity as a species. Like, a country that's a totalitarian government, or the fall of Russia, like if we were to ask Vadim how that was, I don't think he would have a positive, he might have a positive spin on it for himself.
Correct.
You've got to navigate that situation that's catastrophic. It's going to happen. It's like people are going to pass away, car accidents, whatever. And if you can find a way to stay somewhat optimistic, then it is going to affect your circumstances. And that's just clear. That's just obvious common sense, but it's interesting to discover this and talk about the actual energetic forces that are there. It's not just you, it's you, like, basically tapping into an energy and being strung along by it, or an idea or a movement or whatever that is.
It's as if it's controlling you. It's as if that energy is controlling you. How often have you gotten in an argument, and when the argument's over, you walk away and you feel like, even if you won the argument, you lost? And you're wondering
every single time I've been in an argument.
Who was that other it was you, and you're asking yourself, who was that other person that was there? And I call that, now this is where it kind of changes a little bit with the energy, the no against. I call that my inner heckler. Okay. So I have an inner heckler that's like, I don't want to call it the ego. It's kind of like, I know it's kind of sound weird, but it's not really the ego. There's a manifestation here that kind of takes place. And that inner heckler is constantly judging. It's constantly assessing. And so when you are in that state, someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. There's competition involved.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a sport. It could be like an event. It could be, see, even when, if it's like, say, money, and I've seen this with people with money. I have a client. Client has, they're wealthy people. They have $4 some odd million they're worth. They have, retirement accounts with me or whatever. And you walk into their house and they're MFing Comcast because the bill's $10 more than it should be. Okay, so those people are just as poor as the guy on the street who has no home. Okay, why? Because it's become so important to them, right? It's above them. And this is where the law of coordination comes in. This is what I really believe in. This is the one law I believe that supersedes all the others. And Vadim actually says it's the most powerful law in the book. He says it actually in the coordination chapter. And that is the law of coordination, that everything is actually you. That what's in front of you is actually a reflection made out there for you. And the more you fall in love with it, the more it has to change into your favor, including the random stuff, the negative stuff, whatever words we want to use.
Yeah.
That somehow by doing that, you are actually changing the reflection in the mirror to your advantage. So it has nothing on you. So because it has nothing on you, you are actually kind of on a subconscious level. You are taking memories that have affected you and have control of you and releasing that energy. And by releasing that energy, now you don't have control. I'm not saying you have control. What I'm saying is you are letting it flow and you are going with the river as opposed to trying to paddle upstream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a coordination as opposed to competition, with these energetic pendulums or an argument, that's a perfect example of, because both people walk away from that argument sucked out of energy. Neither one of them win the argument. Each respective pendulum is harvesting that energy. So it's like it's like in the pendulum chapter, he's talking about a sporting event, like a football game. Correct. And how, like the reason why the kicker who misses the last field goal at the end of the game doesn't die from all the negative energy is because the energy is harvested by the pendulums, not by the person.
Correct.
So that's what's happening on the energetic level. And both people are being drained by pendulums as they argue with one another about the right thing. And even the winner of the argument still doesn't even get that energy hit.
So isn't that interesting? And we all know what happens. That's the key. On an unconscious level, there's the voice in the back of your head like, what did you get accomplished? See, it's constantly trying to help you. The heckler's not really a heckler. The heckler is actually trying to be your best friend. It's your intuition. And the heckler, instead of being an adversary, it's only become an adversary because you've ignored it for so long. It's actually trying to guide you to start accepting what's in front of you and finding your path and for you to be happy. And this is the most beautiful thing. By getting through that, by like letting it come to you, whatever that energy might be, like really embracing it. Okay, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but by really falling in love with those energies that come to you or inside yourself that are negative. Like you sit there by yourself and they say this whole thing, we're going to meditate. I know you have a deal on what meditation is, but when you really observe your thoughts and you let them all come to you, all kinds of thoughts come to you. Don't judge them. Fall in love with them. We live in a world where everything is judged. Hey, look, you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to fire you. That's not good enough. You got to make more money. Okay, you know what? You're not tall enough. You're not short enough. You're white, you're black. You're brown, you're yellow. Everybody on this planet is the same, and we're all connected. We're all one people. everybody's good enough. You're born good enough. The society that we live in, the world that we kind of live in, sends us little hidden programs that once they get in there, right, they kind of come to the surface. And like, here's where money kind of like comes up again, like on an interesting one. And someone says, is this bad? Like, okay. So the idea is, you want to make money, you got to work hard. That's a pretty painful program if you think about it. In order to make money, I got to work hard. So the harder you work is the only way to make money. You're judging money, first of all, and then you're judging yourself on how you actually make it. I make money by breathing. Whatever program you put in there, in some way, shape, or form, has to show up into your life. And that's where it really changes. People want to know why their situation doesn't change. It's not because they're any better or any worse than anybody else. It's because inside themselves, they have a program that states this is where they're at, and they repeat the same exact activity over and over and over again instead of the direction with which they feel, the direction which takes them to their ultimate joy. And that's where I'll call it, the subconscious becomes your master and you are actually the slave, as opposed to the conscious being the master and now your subconscious works for you. Because once the subconscious starts working for you, it's amazing the things that happen. And go ahead.
Yeah. So, the sort of way that we get distracted from, our innermost, which would include this inner heckler, whatever, all the interior sort of aspects. That's the door, I think, to the higher self, to the us we really are, which is ultimately, one with everything. But these pendulums are flying around in the forms of, ooh, shiny, it's like a distraction, or it looks cool, and it's something that you think you might want, or somebody else maybe it's really fun. It's trendy. It's fancy. It's hip. It's cool. But almost every single one of those is like a false, end. It's not something that's going to fulfill you. It's not something that's gonna do anything but, temporarily quench your lust, for lack of a better way of saying it. Whereas you could be going inside. The way to avoid pendulums, I guess, is what I'm saying, is to really look on the inside of yourself and to get introspective, because pendulums, ideas, these informational structures, they grow and change and evolve. Like if you take a big movement, it eventually just starts to get wildly radical and out of control. That's just the nature of it. And any idea, honestly, any group, any affiliation, if you could go down into that world, into that pendulum, you can follow it down all the way until it's bad for you. Like any of these are potentially life ruining by chasing them down in the external world, and then doing the healing work, which, Transurfing definitely acknowledges these pendulums, or egregores, or whatever the hell we're going to call them from now on. But it doesn't really talk much about, letting this stuff go. I really like the Hopoponono prayer. It's a really, really cool way to do some of that letting go. There was a book called Letting Go. God, what was that guy's name who wrote that book? David Hawkins, maybe? Yeah. That book was amazing, and it talks about how important letting go is. And these energetic informational structures that we're hooked to, that we're not even conscious of a lot of times, when we follow the path inside and heal ourselves, letting go of all the things that have been done to us and take responsibility for our inner world, our inner state. At that point, that is what cuts ties with the pendulum. And that's how we're able to be our own authentic self, express our own voice in a way that is soothing to us, that makes our heart sing and our mind rub its hands with glee. I could do the Vadeemisms
I would like to throw one thing out here because you're really on a great track, and I don't mean to cut you up, but I just want to and then go right on. It's not a caveat; it's just an asterisk. You never tell the pendulum, whether it be a person, a thing, right? The pendulum, a football game, you don't tell it that you're cleaning it. You don't tell it because now you've just given it more power.
Mm-hmm.
What do I mean by tell it? I mean like verbally walk up if because it's the energy is in the energy world. Because it's in the energy world, it's not in the 5 sense world, right? Once they know, right? The ego gets involved once they know you're actually saying it verbally out loud. You follow what I'm saying? You can't, because even then at me saying that, there was like something in your stomach. I could kind of feel it. That like just went, this interesting point. See, this is your inner work. And you were touching on it while you were talking just a second ago, and then go on. It has to be in you. It's not out there. If you're doing it out there, you're muddying the water and actually making it worse. Actually, you're bringing, in some ways, I don't want to use the word curse, but something like that to yourself. You're kind of hexing yourself in a way. You keep the work inside of you. You don't do the work out there in the 5 sense world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's what you were talking about. Am I wrong?
That's true. No, because you get carried away. Like that's why I'm saying any pendulum could take everything that you have. I mean, this is the stupidest one. Like, I'm obsessed with the New York Knicks, and I start buying merchandise off of eBay, of the New York Knicks, and I put that up everywhere. And I start staying home and watching New York Knicks reruns on TV, and start calling out to work because I just can't get enough of the Knicks, and buy a Knicks couch, and eventually go bankrupt and into credit card debt because I needed more Knicks memorabilia. And before you know it, you've completely destroyed yourself, at the throne of Patrick Ewing and the New York Knicks, or whatever it is.
Correct.
It could be the stupidest thing,
Absolutely.
Somebody made a popcorn store once called Popcorn Haven, and it went out of business. As I'm sure you could have guessed. But, my point is simply that anything that you choose to give your energy over to, your identity over to, all we are is attention, right? So, focusing inward is the way to heal and get rid of this stuff. You're exactly right. You can totally get swept away in the external world. That's the stuff that's sweeping you away, the stuff that triggers you and pulls you in. Like, deal with that stuff, write it down, go in, experience it, be empathetic, do all of that inner work. But, I don't think that the external expression of an energetic pendulum, which is almost definitely, if not extremely likely, to swing wildly out of control and eventually hurt people, you don't have to identify with that.
They can kill you. A pendulum can kill you. I mean, that's just you. Yeah,
even an argument on the highway. Road rage turns into somebody pulling a freaking gun and shooting you in the face. It could happen, just like that.
Yeah, and
But instead of like being on guard all the time from the outside world, like, oh my God, I don't want to get hooked. If you just go inside and work on letting things go, and at that point, you don't have to worry about it. It becomes second nature to avoid pendulums. You just slide across them, as opposed to, every once in a while getting hooked. And again, I'm saying, I still get, it still happens, right? Like, I'm not saying that, that's, I'm really, really, really good at it. But like, you start to discover it, and then you just focus more on something fundamental about yourself. Like for me, I like to focus on my heart. That keeps me centered, and then as you go on in Vadim's book, he talks about energy, and he talks about focusing on the energy in your body and these energy streams and stuff like that. And because wherever attention goes, energy flows. So if we're paying attention to external pendulums and giving those energy, then of course they're growing wildly. If we're focusing on our internal self, our own development, things like that, then is what is going to grow. Whatever it is that we focus our attention on, is what we are actively bringing into the world. It's like I saw a guy on YouTube the other day who was talking about how good we are at distracting ourselves, and man, incredible. I know personally how good I am at distracting myself, and all of these like energetic pendulums are the things that I wind up, like falling into. My attention goes there, and I'm just like, oh, and I slip down this like rabbit hole, and before I know it, I'm like, oh God, like what have I been doing for the past 20 minutes? I've been on 6 different, rabbit holes. I haven't done any one thing. And if you could just sit down and focus and just be quiet and listen and go internally, then you can really start to listen to what's most important, focus on that, and then you continue that development. And in time, the pendulums around you are a second thought. You're like, oh yeah, that is over there. I remember that. That's funny, but you haven't,
you are literally discussing the law of coordination.
Yeah.
Which is basically what the Hopo is, which is you are, instead of, because he says, well, what if this happens? Clean it. What if that happens? Clean it. What if this happens? Clean it. What if you get tired of cleaning? Clean on the fact that you're cleaning. What you're doing is you are, in a way, by not giving your attention to those other energy thoughts, right? You're just constantly in a state of finding a way to love yourself. Your real intuition is going to come through. You put your hand over your heart and you focus on your heart, like you mentioned, right? Only good things are going to come. Intuition, a love of oneself. You're going to be able to look in the mirror and look yourself in the eye and say, no matter where I'm at or what I'm doing, I really like who I am. That's where the real power comes in, because now you're not emitting that other energy that we talked about before.
Exactly. Yeah. Now your frequency that you're putting out into the universe, or whatever, however we want to demonstrate that, your vibe, is completely different, and it's going to attract or reflect in the physical world, just like the person that you were talking about with Tourette syndrome, responding, to, and again, we can boil this down to just a very simple explanation, which is people like to be around positive people who have a good attitude and have a good, emotions. I mean, it's very simple. It's not rocket surgery.
It's so true. It's so true. The person that, hey, you know what? He always has, that person right there. She's really nice. She's really
You're glowing.
upbeat.
Your aura's purple.
And there's something to that. There's something to, because you look at him, is whatever that energy is. He talks about how, like, clothes call to you, and and you're talking about how you get distracted, and I think that, that energy, that pendulums that you're talking about, what happens is we get easily duped. Like that right there is going to be the next best thing, right? Or that's not really you. Right. It's not about finding your inner joy in yourself, something about you that you are really happy with, that in your heart that you like, right? That's where it's at. When you start doing that, nobody has anything on you. Yep. No one's better than you, and you don't look down on anybody either.
Right.
Everybody then becomes you, and they all really like being around you. It's a beautiful state. It happens. See it all the time.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. And that's, I mean, it's so simple too. I mean, it really is. It's the most obvious is unseen. It just is that way. I don't know why it is, but it is. And we just have to remember, just remember, remember to look within yourself instead of all around you for the answers are not out there. The only way, out is through, and the only way, the only way to enter that door is it's inside of us. So, that's where we need to go. Getting hooked on this idea or that idea, and always guilt, duty, and obligation always leads to a pendulum. If you feel like you have to do something because, there's going to be a negative consequence, then you're probably being manipulated
without question. And it's probably a hidden program from earlier in your life, meaning that, and what I mean by that is, like, i.e., I mentioned it, I don't know if I mentioned it on the earlier while we were talking, but I was a pleaser. Okay. I used to be a pleaser, meaning I used to do things in order to make other people happy. And what I found out was my inner self really didn't like that. Even though I was doing it for an agenda. See what I'm saying? That's not loving yourself. When you are doing something else for somebody else,
An
in order,
expectation too
and
for, right? Like that you'll
it,
do something else
oh
quicker.
my God, yeah, it's like it literally. I don't want to use the word dot. Well, I won't use that word, but it smells, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. When you actually
desperation is a stinky cologne.
Yes, and when you when you love yourself, everybody in the room who's around you is attracted to it.
Mm-hmm.
When you love yourself, everybody wants to be you. I thoroughly believe this. I like this as an example. You always like a little joke as someone was talking to me. You walk into a room that I used to think like it was always like what did the person look like on the outside is what dictated whether they were liked or women liked. If it was a guy, if women liked them, or like, this is what's attractive about a girl. I believe a guy, when he truly loves himself and he's on his path and he could really care less where anybody else is going, he could have a hand sticking out of his forehead and he'd have 3 beautiful women around him. They don't care because they're energy. Women are energy. They're just like money. Money doesn't care, okay, what you look like, how tall you are, where you came from. It wants to know if you love yourself. Because if you love yourself, money's going to love you. It's just the way it is. Okay? Same thing with the opposite sex. People want to be around other people that love themselves. If you're naturally attracted to it on an unconscious level, or on a subconscious level, you are attracted to wanting to be around other people who love themselves. It's just the way the world is built.
Self-love, it's going to manifest itself in confidence. And of course, confidence is the most attractive quality and all on and on. So yeah, absolutely, man. And again, this stuff is not that mystical. It's simple. It's kitty posters, man. It's kitty posters.
I like kitty posters. I like kitty posters.
I'm a big fan. And no, but this is great. I really appreciate it. This has been a really good conversation, I think, like keeping in mind, folks, that you don't owe anybody anything or anything. And whatever it is that you give, you got to go inside to give that anyways. So I think that's the direction that we all need to start hopefully trying to focus on. Take your time, take some time for yourself, get quiet, relax, show yourself some treat yourself, like whatever that looks like. And start to really try to open up and listen to your heart. We don't listen to our hearts enough in our society. I don't think. And that's really the way for, I think, inspiration to float up. And then at that point, you can have that balance, that coordination of mind and heart that are in agreement, which is a very, very, very powerful force. It exudes charm. It creates radiance and purple auras, and the law of attraction stuff starts working for you before you know it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and even unintentionally, I have friends who just are themselves and are full and full of love and they don't even know what they're doing, but their lives reflect just the energy that they're emitting and that frequency. So, not to say not to heal that stuff. We've definitely covered that. Letting go. I think the Hopoponono, how do you say it again? Hopoponono.
Hopoponono.
Hopoponono is an excellent exercise, and there are other ones too. I've got a couple.
Can I mention something you just talked about? I just want to elaborate because it's the same thing. I just want to elaborate on it just a little bit. You see the world through the lens of how you think and feel. Okay, the world has a toroidal field. Your world starts to resonate with how you think and feel. Your world therefore reflects your thoughts. End of story. The way you describe your world, okay, you are actually describing your thoughts, your feelings. And those feelings, people know it. And there are feelings people want to be around. People don't want to be around fear. People don't want to be around guilt, and they don't want to be around shame. What they want to be is around someone who loves themselves and lives in in the definition of agape, fearlessness. The word fearlessness is used. That's when the miracles like really start happening, because you don't put out a defense of something that you are just creating just to create something to be negative. You are in the state of letting everything come to you that's supposed to come to you. And miracles are happening every day. Being here talking to you on this call. Thank you very much. I have a lot of gratitude for it. And I want to say thank you for giving me an opportunity to visit with you.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate it, and yeah, thanks for talking about this topic, because I really think we hit on some good points out there, and hopefully they'll be helpful to some folks. I know I need to remember this stuff, so thank you very much, and thanks for sharing about the Hopoponono. I swear I'll never get it right.
It's all right. It's all good. I did the same thing when I started doing it too.
But that's excellent. Yeah, and I was just going to say that there's a couple of exercises too. If you guys hit me up, I'll send them to you. But they're also on my Patreon page that are releasing exercise, letting go. There's a lot of ways to do it. You can go in. It's really about forgiveness and allowing whatever has happened to be the case, instead of feeding your resistance to it, because the more you resist persists. It's against energy. So against energy is really for the thing that you're against, and it takes a while to figure that out. But once you do, I think life gets a lot easier.
Can I mention my YouTube site?
Please.
My YouTube site is Last Creed. Okay. 2 words, Last Creed.
Last Creed. Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes.
And I teach the Hopoponono, and it's really everyone's own. But basically, what you're teaching everybody is really simple, really easy. Is you're going to do it yourself. Everybody has it inside of them to do it.
Yeah, nobody's going to do it for you.
No one's going to do it for you. You have to do it. You don't have to. That's the other
you don't.
Thing too.
You don't have to.
You make your own choice. Everyone gets their own choice. But if it calls to you, like the clothes, right? If it calls to you, that's when and there's kind of like a sense of joy in your heart when you feel that little that it's like a little energy ball in your heart of joy, right? That it's calling to you. That's when you're in the right spot. It's coming to you. You're not chasing it down. It's coming to you. And it becomes a choice, right? When it comes to you, it's meant to come to you. And when you embrace it, great stuff happens.
That's awesome. I concur. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Jimmy, thank you very, very much. Check out Jimmy's YouTube site, Last Creed. And anywhere else people can see any of your work?
No, that's it right now. I don't have any other sites. It's okay for me to have in my profession. I can't have anything on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. Gotcha. I can have this on YouTube. On YouTube, I can have a site, which obviously isn't directly related to any finance. But
sure,
I appreciate just the opportunity to talk. I just want an opportunity to talk, and I can still communicate with you via Skype, right?
Yeah, or just hit me up on my phone. Probably it's better, or like or email is fine.
Okay, cool.
Because I'm not on Skype other than when I'm podcasting with somebody. Really.
Gotcha. So, do you have anything else other than YouTube? Do you have like Twitter or anything like that? Is there anything else?
I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook currently. Okay, cool. At Bootsy Greenwood everywhere. Patreon.com/Bootsy Greenwood for extras, and I do extra podcasts and different things like that, folks, and comedy, and Flying Squid Comedy.com, as well as YouTube Flying Squid Comedy, and I'll have some other comedy that I'm gonna try and start pulling out, even on my YouTube page. So I don't know, maybe it goes over like a Led Zeppelin, but we'll see what happens. I've been working on some stuff that at least has been fun and making my heart sing. So
I see it. I personally, when I see sit back shipping champagne on a 747, that was just the mental image I had in my head. I just wanted to like throw that out.
747, huh? That's nice.
Yeah. All
Charter
night.
that guy.
Yeah.
You got room.
Hey,
You got room in there.
Exactly.
There's like a dance floor in the middle, you know?
Yeah, one of those
Nice.
one of the staircases that goes circular.
Right.
You know this. You know.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm just saying. If you're going to tell a story, tell the good story, bro.
Party barn.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Red. All good.
Well, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, we'll be in touch. Everybody, like I said, check it out. Last Creed on YouTube, and we will see y'all next time.
Okay, talk to you soon.